This is the Sony MDR Z7 Mark II. Boy, it just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? This is Sony's mid-level hi-fi headphone, and by mid-level, I mean $900. This is the bigger brother to the original Z7 and sits just below the top-of-the-line Sony MDR Z1R. Let's get to the unboxing. Sony says that both their Z7 and the Mark II have authentic, engaging sound for audiophiles. They use similar drivers, though not the same drivers. The Mark II comes with 2.76-inch dynamic drivers. Boy, 2.76 inches, that sounds huge! It comes out to 70 millimeters. I have no idea why Sony decided to use inches instead of millimeters to describe the driver size, because every other company uses millimeters. I can only assume it's because they wanted to convince Western audiences that the drivers are ginormous. But they already are ginormous. 70 millimeters is huge. Whatever. Sony took a little bit of the criticism that the original Z7s had, and they tweaked their drivers in a couple of ways. The first is that they changed the impedance. In the original Z7, the impedance was 70 ohms. The Mark II, the one I have here, has the impedance of 56 ohms. Frankly, it doesn't really matter all that much because both headphones are easily driven by any mobile device. Both headphones also have the same frequency response, 4 Hz to 100,000 Hz, which is both amazing and silly at the same time. I don't know why companies keep going lower into the inaudible frequency range. Now, some people say it's so that the headphones sound smoother and have less peakiness and spikes in the frequency. I'm not so sure about that. Frankly, I'm of the opinion that the overall tuning of a headphone is far more important than just how low into the inaudible range or how high into the inaudible range a particular driver can go. The Z7 Mark II comes with 2 sets of cables. One is balanced, the other is unbalanced, and I am really glad that Sony decided to include both types of cables. Look, when companies charge over $1,000 for headphones, they should in fact include multiple cables. And the Focal Clear is a great example of what Focal does right, which is they give you all the cables you will ever possibly need. But companies that charge anywhere between $500 up to $1,000 rarely, if ever, give you more than one cable, which is a real cop-out. I think when customers pay that much money, they deserve one more set of cables. Just give it to them. It doesn't cost the companies a whole lot of money. So I'm at least a little bit glad that Sony did in fact include both cables here. The headphones themselves are made of all metal and fake leather. And I have to say, it feels really nice in the hand. These are big headphones, but they don't weigh all that much. They're about 12 ounces, and when you put them on top of your head, they kind of just sit there well balanced. There's not a whole lot of pinching, and there's not discomforture of any sort, at least not in my opinion. The headphones themselves will make your ears a bit warm after a little bit of time. For me, within 5 to 10 minutes, my ears started feeling warm, but it never got to the level where I want to throw them off my head. Overall, the sound signature for both the Z7 and the Mark II is fairly similar, but with a noticeable difference. So both headphones have a warm sound. They are made to just relax and listen. These are not for mixing and mastering and for analytical sound. So get that out of your mind right now. The Z7 Mark II has a tweak, and that tweak is that the bass response on the Mark II is much tighter than it was in the original Mark I. See, people complained that the original Z7 had muddy bass which distorted the mids and also didn't give sufficient detail when the treble was engaged, which was all quite true. So Sony tightened out all of that up. And even though the Z7 Mark II does have a pronounced bass response, it doesn't bleed into the mids nearly as much as the original Z7. Indeed, I would say that if you compare both the Z7 and the Mark II back to back, you will immediately notice that the mids, the vocals, come out cleaner and clearer and more distinctly on the Mark II. Overall, I would say that the Z7 Mark II has a warm sound signature that's kind of reminiscent of the Chord Mojo and iFi IDSD Black Label. In fact, I would say if somebody turned the Mojo and the iFi into headphones, Sony would be the ones making those headphones. It's that similar. Which means that you should probably not mix these types of headphones with warm DACs. It just means that you will not be able to get all of the detail that the headphones could potentially deliver. But we will get to the full review quite soon.